The euro is on course for an eighth straight week of losses against the dollar. That's as investors respond to a widening difference between the eurozone faltering economy and more robust growth in the US. The currency has lost more than 5% since mid-July to trade at around $1.07 against the greenback, and comes amid a string of weak economic data in the eurozone. The bloc's official second quarter growth figure was revised down from 0.3% to 0.1%. Europe's powerhouse Germany saw industrial production fall for a third straight month in July, while jobless claims in the US fell unexpectedly, raising the likelihood of a pause to the Federal Reserve's rate hike cycle. Let's get more on this now with Ross Mould in London. He's Investment Director at AJ Bell. Thanks for joining us this morning, Ross. All these weakening economic factors is making the euro less appealing for investors. Is there more to this?
I think the weakening data reflects growing feelings in the market that the European Central Bank may not take interest rates there much higher. The main refinancing rate is currently 4.25% in Europe. It's 5.25% in the UK and 5.5% in America. So investors are looking to put their cash where they can get the higher interest rate. But at the moment, that's America. So interest rate differentials are a lot to do with the relative currency strengths.
Right, now the dollar is now on its longest winning streak since 2014. What does this tell us about the state of the US economy?
I think had we been having this conversation a year ago, most economists would have said that America was certain to have a recession this year. That hasn't happened. Unemployment is still very low. And the Atlanta Federal Reserve's forecast for the third quarter is for annualized growth of 5.6%, way stronger than anything you'll see in Europe. So on the face of it, the picture is very strong. All I would say is that the US federal budget deficit will be around 5 to 6% of GDP this year, very similar to GDP growth. And with tax income broadly flat, I'm not convinced that the private US economy is as strong as it looks, but overall, a lot of the support looks to be coming from federal spending, and that may well continue until the election for the presidency next year.
Right, Ross Mould there in London for us. Thank you for your analysis. Now to other top stories from around the world. Japanese workers' real wages have continued to fall in July, putting more pressure on the Bank of Japan to tighten its policy further. The average monthly wage dropped 2.5% from a year ago, slipping for a 16th straight month. The decline demonstrates that recent salary hikes were too modest to offset the impact of rising prices. Shares in Apple have fallen for a second day in a row after reports that China banned government employees from using iPhones. The company's shares fell about 3% on Thursday, following a 4% decline the day before, as investors worry about Apple's fate in the country. The news has knocked $200 billion off Apple's market value, casting a shadow over the next week's launch of its latest smartphone. And a fourth former FTX executive has pleaded guilty to criminal charges tied to the collapse of the crypto exchange. Ryan Salam admitted he violated campaign finance laws and operated an illegal money transmitting business. He has agreed to surrender more than $1.5 billion to authorities. His plea comes ahead of the October trial of the FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, who was arrested last year on fraud charges.